Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, representing my squad. And today I'm coming at you guys with a competitive take on DDDs. Now, this is an archetype that has received love and hate throughout the duration of its time being incepted into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! It has had times where it actually shined. There was a glimpse of hope that this deck had in the past. It was recently within the last 2 years where DDDs were considered to be the best deck of the current time. It was able to spit out Crystal Wing, Siegfried, and Titanic Galaxy, and it was around the time when this deck got Siegfried and some other new support, and then it kind of just got overshadowed by other decks. But I still think that as it currently stands, the only crippling factor that has been a hindrance on this deck's functionality has been Master Rule 4. But Konami's done a good job with creating link monsters that are kind of generic and can apply to any deck and playstyle. And this is a deck that has excess resources to do stuff like that. So I think that due to its functionality and its ability to spam the board using its elements of recursion and summoning out powerful boss monsters, that it is a tier 3 deck that has the potential to spit out tier 2 and tier 1 boards. Does that make sense? The deck itself is tier 3 material, and the reason is not because the deck's bad, but just because of how fragile it is and how unique and specific the hands have to be for you to do it. But the boards that it ends on are tier 2 and tier 1 material, meaning that any deck would struggle against it, truly any deck. But yeah, I did this deck profile because one individual subscriber asked for me to do DDDs with the new support that came out from Soul Fusion. I told that man that I would do it, and I am a man of my word. If I can do it, I will. The only time I won't do it is if I can't. And I would love to give you a shout out, bro. I am giving you a shout out, but I just don't remember your name, and I'm sorry for that. But let's hop into the list, you guys. We're going to start off with our Savant Kepler. This is your Stratos of the deck, but also some unique property about him is his scale effect can come up sometimes, and also a secondary effect to bounce your DDD cards can come up if you play the trap and you don't want to pay more life points, so you can always just bounce it, and that way you don't have to keep the maintenance of it. But something really interesting about Savant, the word Savant, if you guys didn't know what a Savant is kind of like a scholar, but not necessarily. They're just men who have a lot of knowledge. So Savants are very wise. And wisdom and knowledge are two different things. Wisdom is the ability to apply the knowledge that you have. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not applying it or using it in your life, it's all for vain. And savants actually have wisdom because they use their advantage, use their knowledge to their advantage. Me, myself, I'm an idiot savant. I feel like some of the wisdom that I have that people have shared with me, I learned from other people. I can't find a way to use it for myself, but it's a benefit when I share it with other people. Just some weird story. But yeah, the class of Savants in the DDD archetype is really cool because Savants are all starter plays, which is really cool. And then your other DDD monsters that are not Savants are all the combo reactive cards that allow you to recur a lot of your stuff and to finish the combo, but Savants always started. And next up to Savant Kepler, we also have Savant Copernicus. His scale effect can be really clutch, especially due to in-a-match procedures. So keep in mind his scale effect is relevant at certain times, but he is basically a Foolish Burial and or Armageddon Knight of the deck. So he's really good at starting your plays, but he doesn't really finish them. These are play starters, you guys. These guys get you to the other cards of your deck that finish your plays. So am I making sense now when I say the Savants? The Savant class of monsters starts the plays, but the other monsters in your deck finish it. These are starter cards. Next up, and they can be used in other ways, but for the most part, they're starter cards. Next up are Ragnarok. He's the king boss monster in the main deck. Really powerful card, your main target for Thomas, and also your main method of removal against a Thunder Dragon board. You can just banish the monster, which is really cool. He has this crazy ability where he can recur monsters from the grave in scale and on summon, which is really broken. I normally get maximum. I maximize on and every little bit of value that I can capitalize off of this card. Every single combo sequence. It's really important. All your important combo pieces I like to play at 3. Next up is our Savant Thomas. You guys, the reason why I love Thomas so much, especially as at 3, is because he gives you 2 different follow-ups, and I'm huge on follow-ups. I preach that about a lot of decks. In order to be a good player and to have success in the Yu-Gi-Oh format that we're in right now, you have to dedicate your deck to being able to set up a follow-up so that you can have this crazy, unbreakable, and amazing board, but you have a follow-up just for the offset chance that your board does get broken, because it's not impossible to break a board contrary to what people believe. Like Goki players, I think that their only weakness is they never have a follow-up, because when you break their board, their extra deck has 2 cards left in it, and there's little to nothing that they can do. But with this deck, Thomas gives you a follow-up. He allows you to add your resources back from your extra deck. And also, this deck is very fragile to hand traps, and I love Thomas because if you get hand trapped, you can actually use him to still make a rank 8. And ending on something after you get hand trapped, I feel is a really, really beneficial component, and it can be even revered as a beneficial accrutement. Which is something that you should just keep in mind. So Thomas gives me 2 different follow-ups. He is an extender for your combos, and sometimes he's the only play that you can make, and that will happen sometimes. Sometimes I pitch him off my Swirl Slime, and then I bring him back off of Ragnarok just so I can use his effect and then get a guy from the deck. Speaking of, triple Swirl Slime and triple Necro Slime. Necro Slime can break sometimes, but you have to maximize on your combo pieces, and this is one of the combo pieces where it makes your good hands really, really good, but without it being next to certain cards, it's not that good. So you do have to draw this in combination with other cards because it has to be engraved to get this effect, but there's a lot of ways that you can get this guy engraved, so it's not going to be a difficult thing. And I really just like 3 because of Pot of Desires. If I only played 2 Desires, if I only played 2, it would be in a list that I didn't play any Desires because I would rather play 2 of this card because you never actually resolve 3 in a duel, but you need to see it. It's really important. And then next up are Lamia. Lamia is an incredible extender. In fact, this is one of the cards that you abuse the most in your combo sequences when you're building your board full of negates and boss monsters. Lamia gets resummoned 4 or 5 times sometimes. It's crazy how many times you summon her. Sometimes you only summon her 3 times. And the last time you summon her, you always want to use her effect so that you can use your other Revival Fusion or your Synchro on bringing back another guy that you can use to make another boss monster. So yeah, Lamia is incredible, you guys. And she's the main tuner you want to use, so yeah, 3 of. Next up, I'm main decking 2 Vanity's Fiends because I feel that this deck, when you can spit out a board full of negations and then slap a Vanity's Fiend next to it and say, here you go, play, there's nothing worse that you can do to your opponent than that. Vanity's Fiend is a great complement to every board that you can make, and if you can get them out with relative ease, I prefer to just do it at the end of my combo sequence. Some hands, you can only end on 3 negates if you commit your normal summon to another guy like Kepler, but some hands, you can already spit out 2 negates without a normal summon, and that is possible. And in those hands, that's where Vanity's Fiend is the star, because you can summon 2 negators and then drop your Vanity's Fiend, and you end on double negates plus the Vanities, and you've locked them out from being able to Infinite Impermanence or Forbidden Chalice this guy or Widow Anchor him, because you will negate that. And that's what I like to do, is I actually like to get out at least 1 spell or trap negator plus a monster negator so that they cannot use a monster effect to deal with him, and they cannot negate his effect with impermanence. So it's really powerful. Consider playing him. Then we have 1 Vice Typhoon and 1 Ghost. These are good extenders for your deck. But more or less, Ghost is not always an extender, but he's like a follow-up. He's a really good recovery play. Get back your banished Slimes. Get back your banished Lamia. Anything that you banished off of Necro, you can add it back. Even has synergy with the Lure of Darkness. With this card in your hand, a Lure of Darkness becomes a +2. You draw 2, and then you get an extra card off of him, which means that you went from 5 to 6, which is really good, or 4 to 5, however you want to say it, wherever your hand size is. But yeah, Vice Typhoon is really good because you need more ways to summon more fusions, because the Slimes are good, but oftentimes I will end up fusion summoning very, very excessively, and having the additional option for DDD Vice Typhoon is really good because it makes your Copernicus that much more beneficial and flexible, because it's easier to resolve her than it is to resolve your Necro Slime sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Then for the only hand trap of the deck, I played a playset of triple Ash Blossom because I felt that she was the best hand trap that you could play. And since I had very little space for hand traps, I felt that Ash would just take that slot. She's a very diverse hand trap that you can use in so many different ways. There's a lot of cards that she can hit. And then next up, Dark Contract with the Gate. What I love about this card is it is a follow-up. Every turn, you're getting a +1. You're drawing 1 for turn and getting a search off this. So you're generating 2 cards every turn. It allows you to consistently generate advantage. Sometimes it allows you to out-resource your opponent, which is really strong. Some people, when I see profiles, they're just like, triple gate, it's the searcher of the deck. And I just look at them like, bro, it's deeper than that. It's more than just the searcher. It's a follow-up. It's a guaranteed follow-up every single time. It's the missing combo piece you need. This card is like so many things. It fits in so many slots for the deck. It's incredible. So yeah, 3 Dark Contract with the Gate, amazing card, you guys. It really did. Like, people should emphasize more on what else it can be other than just, we know it searches, we know how to read cards, but I like to express and reiterate on the interactions that a lot of cards have with other cards that most people just completely overlook, and it really can help you if you want to play this deck. Then we have triple Allure. We also have triple pot of desires. I need to be able to dig in my deck because everything is at 3 and it is searchable, but having draw power really helps because there are certain cards like your one of spells that you want to see that are not searchable. And then we have our 1-for-1, our Foolish, our Monster Reborn, and our Soul Charge. Incredible one of, Soul Charge being the best one, just game. And then we have 1 Dark Contract with the Swamp King. You don't always need it. It's just nice to have the option to make your Kepler a lot more flexible too. So now Kepler and Copernicus, both of those cards on normal summon, can get you a fusion play. Whereas now you don't have to rely on searching out your slimes or having slimes. So it just helps just having that in the deck. My other tech is actually Entities. I think this card is insane, you guys. I'll read you all of its effects because most people overlook this card. I haven't really seen it played ever since it came out. So what it does is when a DDD monster that's of the following type is summoned from your extra deck to your field, you activate the appropriate effect applying to what it was summoned. And you can use all of these in the same turn. If you summon a DDD fusion monster, you gain 1,000 life point. Sometimes in match procedures, if your opponent calls time in the round, if the judges call time in the round and you're in your main phase 1, you can just search this off of Kepler, fusion summon, gain 1,000 life points, and win the duel. So I feel that because of end-of-match procedures, you should definitely consider playing a card like this because this can actually win you the game. And that's why I think people sleep on so many cards, but I never sleep on cards, bro. I stay woke. Then for Synchro, your opponent cannot target that monster with card effects. That's okay. It's never really going to come up because your Synchros are normally the turn that you summon them, you're letting them stay on the field so you can negate on the next turn. XYZ is one of my favorite ones. Banish 1 card on the field or the graveyard. The one that I can never really use that much is a Pendulum, draw 1 and discard. But the 2 best effects are for fusion summoning and for XYZ summoning, which you can do in the same turn. You can gain 1,000 life points, and you can banish 1 card from the field or graveyard without targeting or destroying, which can allow you to use your Ragnarok to banish 1 guy, and then use this to banish another, and you're banishing 2 cards, which is really good. The traps are 1 contact with the Witch. This card is a Raigeki, and I really like it. It's a Raigeki break. I really like it because it's another reactive component to your board. So you can end on triple negate plus this as long as you have the fodder in your hand or your field. Just your hand. And you can just out a card and still have all your negations. And this can protect your Vanity's Fiend as well. And then my spicy tech for the Thunder Dragon matchup. I'm telling you guys, I don't sleep on cards. Some cards in the DDD archetype are too good to overlook. And this is a great card. Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. You guys really should play this card. I haven't seen anybody running these and it kind of baffles me. So this card, while you have 2 cards in your DD cards in your Pendulum Zone, so you have to commit to set this up, but it's worth the setup. Because here what it does. So while you have 2 DD cards in your Pendulum Zones, your opponent cannot target monsters on the field with spells or traps. They cannot tribute them for a tribute summon, and they cannot use them as materials for a fusion XYZ synchro summon. So basically your opponent can only link summon or pendulum summon, but they can only link summon or pendulum summon. None of the monsters can be targeted. And guess what? Thunder Dragons can't play. Burning Abyss can't play. A lot of decks, even the FTK deck, they have to XYZ to do a lot of their plays. So this stops Thunder Dragons, it stops Burning Abyss, helps against the FTK deck. And your opponent can't impermanence. Guess what? Your opponent cannot infinite impermanence your Vanity's Fiend. Because your monsters, all monsters that you have, monsters on the field cannot be targeted with spell or traps effect. So you never actually want to have both of these because this will conflict, but you just pick which one you want to end on. And this just makes your setup more insane. So really high ceiling card, definitely consider playing it. And of course you gotta, if you're watching my deck profiles, I gotta give you guys the spice, man. I can't disappoint. For our extra deck, I chose just these for the 2 link monsters. And I normally summon these both in my combo sequences to end with 3 monster negators. With 3 monsters that negate, and then 1 other one, normally in column number 4 or 2, that I got revived off of one of my revival effects. But what you do is you link into him first, and then you trade him off and another dark into her, and you just swap zones. So you go here first, and then you go over there. And that's how you end with your crazy board. And that's why I like to summon her last as well, because whenever she dies, you can add her back, and then you still have a link too that you can go into, but normally it's game. So yeah, those are the only ones that I play. You don't need any other ones in my opinion, but you can play whatever link monsters you want. Next up, I have 2 of the new fusion. 1 was good, but I thought that 2 was really good too, because sometimes 1 gets used as an XYZ material just to make a rank 8, and then that's nice to have the second one if you can make it, so you can have that extra negator on the field. This card is amazing, you guys. It's really broken. It's a boss monster by itself, and it's like another way that you can do a Genghis play, but it's a better Genghis play because it doesn't have all the restrictions. And Genghis is still good. It's still a broken card, but this is just way better than Genghis. Then we still have one dark for time. I have this fusion instead of Borreload Dragon because this card is Borreload. It actually is. You guys have to read the card. This card is amazing. My DDD players, you guys have to play this. This is a better Borreload. Basically, and if an attack is declared involving this card, you can target one DDD or dark contract card you control, bounce it to your hand, and if you do, equip one face-up monster your opponent controls to this card, except the battling monster. So it's not necessarily like Borreload in the sense that it takes the monster that it attacks, but it is like Borreload because it removes a monster without targeting, without destroying, and it's really powerful and it's easy to make. So I like it better than Borreload because you can attack into a weak monster and then take the monster that you really want to get rid of. So in a way, it's still like Borreload. You just can't attack into the monster you want to take. So it's obvious, like it's just like Borreload. You just literally you attack a monster that you don't really want to kill, and then you get rid of the monster that you do want to kill with him, and equip it to him, and then he'll get the attack from it. And there's no limit on how many monsters you can equip. So as long as you're taking your opponent's monsters, this guy's attack is 3,200 base. It will get bigger and bigger and bigger. This card's broken. If you're not playing it, I have questions for you, but I understand. Player preference. Crystal Wing, Siegfried, Gus Alexander, and Meteor Burst for my synchros. You can play Omega, but normally it just doesn't come up enough for me. But yeah, I normally end with Crystal Wing and Siegfried in the same turn, plus another rank 8, which is really good. And if your hand is incredible, you'll end with the rank 8, the Crystal Wing, the Siegfried, and then this bad boy right here. And you have 4 negations on field, and you know it's just crazy. Yeah, so really good cards. Meteor Burst is for your combo with Ragnarok. Rank 8 that y'all are sleeping on. This card is incredible. It actually allows you, so something really cool. I love Kali Yuga because he outs back rolls, and he does freeze up the whole board. Like it's like a skill drain for everything, or like a rank up magic Numeron force. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't board wipe monsters. Where this guy's a 35 beat stick. So I feel like they're brothers. I feel like they're counter components to each other because this guy can wipe back rolls and this guy can wipe monsters. This guy wipes fields. He's a board wipe depending on how many you have. You can destroy monsters up to the number of pendulums that you have. So he's a board wipe. It's really easy to summon. He has a good relevant scale effect. He has other great effect. He's just a really good card. But these are brothers because there are turns when you can summon both of them in the same turn. And that's an OTK right there. It's crazy because they're going to be under the Link Monster. They're both going to be 4,000 beaters because of V-Witch. And this card is probably the best rank 8 in the whole deck. This card is so slept on. Don King Kali Yuga is a beast, you guys. It really is. Then we have Titanic. And for more flexible rank 8, I wanted to go with Lancelot because sometimes Titanic is not that great because it can only negate spells. And I want a sure thing. I don't want it to be my opponent had a Saki card that I couldn't negate because it wasn't a spell. So I decided to go with Lancelot because he's a rank 8 that can negate anything, including monster effects. And I like that because the Galaxy Eyes rank 8 can only negate monster effects. And this guy can only negate spells. And it's like I wanted a well-rounded rank 8 that can negate anything. And he also can attack directly and destroy cards on the field. So he's pretty flexible. There are some cards, you know, and I always say it in my video, there are going to be cards on my list that some people don't agree with. But always keep in mind that I have very good reasons for building my deck the way I build it. I have very good reasons for playing the cards that I play and playing the way I do. And yeah, there are some cards, like a lot of cards in this list where people would say, no, you're not supposed to play this in DDDs. There is no correct way to play a deck. Did you know that? You can build a deck however you want. And if it works, that's all that matters. And this deck works. It's incredible. In fact, I think it's more unique than most DDD decks because it has all the redeeming qualities that your DDD deck has. But it also has specific outs to certain things that DDDs naturally don't have an out to. Especially like playing the fusion that nobody plays. Playing the rank 8 that nobody plays. Playing this rank 8 that nobody plays. Playing the traps. And playing the entities and main decking the Vanity's Fiend. It's just some stuff it changes the whole ceiling of the deck, and it makes this deck is higher ceiling than basic DDDs is. And it's not opinion, it's a fact. It has a higher ceiling in a lot of matchups, especially because of the trap I was just telling you about. The Eternal Darkness trap, it stops Thunder Dragons, Burning Abyss, FTK, so many other decks that are reliant on using other summoning mechanics that aren't you know, link summoning. And keep in mind that guess what? Even Dracos have a hard time because they can't tribute summon. So it's a really good card, and I feel that DDDs have a way to floodgate a lot of the meta decks, and you really have to consider playing a card like that. And that's what I want you guys to take out of this deck profile. Try to innovate your decks. Try to think outside the box and look up cards that you know are good. And no matter how much you don't see that card being played, don't let this be a factor on whether you play a card or not. Don't let it be this. oh, well, I don't see anybody else playing it, so I'm not going to play it. No, bro. Just because everybody else isn't playing it doesn't mean it's not a good card. And I hope that you guys can understand the point that I'm making. But God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. Have a beautiful day. And don't do drugs, y'all. I'm definitely going to sign out. It's time to go to bed. Peace.